just not telling the truth.
Oh, that's a relief. I was afraid I wouldn't be able to use a liar pants on fire defense.
Hey, what about you?
I fit in better than you. At least I'm wearing cowboy boots.
Must be hard being a king.
How did I do? There is now a level to go.
You're the best, man. Come on, Benny, man. The kid is a L7 weenie.
Your L7 weenie is the Al Travis Show. That'd be me, and we're lucky to have our next guest on. I guess that's the truth. He comes highly recommended. First time on the program. He's Senator Robert Kupec. Senator, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
So we got to find out a little bit about you. District 4, if I'm not mistaken, the Fargo-Moorhead area, right?
That's right. Moorhead over to Detroit Lakes. It's most of Clay County, good slice of Becker County.
All right, fair enough. Give us a little bit about you, sir. This is your first term, I'm in the impression, in the Senate, correct?
That is right. Yeah, I'm in my first term. Previously, before being elected to the Senate, I was 20 years as a television meteorologist in the Fargo-Moorhead area on 2 different stations. Originally, I'm from Connecticut. We moved out to Minnesota in 2000. So,
all right, fair enough. Life, married, kids, anything like that? Anything to share?
Yep. My wife was a professor at Minnesota State University Moorhead. I got one son. He's an adult, lives out on the West Coast now.
All right, fair enough. One of the things we've been doing ever since let's start with this quick. I'm sure you've seen it, but Senator John Hoffman yesterday afternoon, I don't know if he quote unquote posted it. I saw it on a half a dozen posts. He is out of intensive care unit now. They actually had a picture of him with his little suitcase. By the way, didn't that seem strange? If you're leaving intensive care unit, they don't have a nurse pushing you in a wheelchair. I mean, pick up your own luggage, John. It seemed strange to me.
Yes.
It didn't it? I mean,
yeah, you're right. I think of all the times, like there are times like, you go in for your colonoscopy and they're like, you got to go out in a wheelchair.
Yeah, we got to push you all the way to your car because we don't want you to fall or something. I don't mean I make fun of it. I love John Hoffman. John Hoffman has said, and we'll see, he should be back on the show next Monday. We're fingers crossed on that whole thing. It was fun to see him, but when I first I was like, what kind of third-rate hospital? You're done with the ICU. Walk over that other room over there. I just thought it was weird, but we're very happy to report that he is out of ICU, and that's fantastic. So
the best part was to see him up and walking, even if he had to haul his own luggage. Sure.
Well, yeah. Thank God they brought the luggage on wheels. I think it was the airport thing that helped him a little bit. I just thought that was the strangest vote, but I'm happy. I'm so happy, and he looks, good comparatively. Right? If you laid in bed for 2 weeks. He looked a little thinner. They're probably not feeding him the same food he'd like, but he looked good, and he had the smile on his face, and he looked like John. So
he looked like John Hoffman. Absolutely.
It doesn't take long to get to know John, so I presume you know John pretty well, right? One session, and he's your buddy.
Yeah, John and I actually, John was one of the first people, I think, after I was elected that reached out to me. We went and we had lunch together. We've done a bunch of things. And last winter, he's chair of human services, and we had a few things cooking up in our district with human services. He came up to Moorhead. We toured around the day. He just charmed the pants off all of my county commissioners. He's a great guy.
He's smooth. Okay, so we are happy to report that. But since the shootings, this program has decided that I think part of the problem with a lot of you people, I'm pointing at you with my pen, that means I'm serious, you people in your line of work, is that when you're asked a question, a political question, I got to get boom, 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 this answer. And we stop thinking of you all as much as people as we do our elected officials, which is sad because you're my meteorologist who became a senator. Back in the day, being you is what made you special. So what we're doing now is asking one pretty lame question to each person every week they come on to find out a little bit more about them. So the question this week, sir. What's the last photo you took on your phone?
Oh my gosh, the last photo I took on my phone. What was yesterday? Where
it's probably a 4th of July thing because but for you guys, did you take any?
You know what? I'm trying to think. We went out camping out in western North Dakota. And I took I think probably a selfie of my wife on our last little hike we took Sunday morning before we packed up the camper and drove home out in the Badlands. So that's it.
Fair enough. That's a great answer to the question. Thank you for playing our little game. With this being your first session, what were your thoughts? This your first term in, you've had it when you had in 2022, 23, you would have had all the powers behind you. You guys could got everything you wanted. How is that different than this last session?
Yeah, it is a lot different. I think, I think there was a lot more, especially with a divided House.
Yes.
I think there was a lot more strategy involved about and thought about, what is really realistic to do and compromise. And I'm going to say on the Senate side, at the beginning of the session, because we were in a tie briefly. And I think, we came with this idea of shared responsibility, which I think the Republicans also kind of picked up that mantle. And, I think we did a lot of, I think we had a bipartisan spirit, and I think it had a slightly different vibe this session with that shared responsibility thing. In a lot of ways, I think held over through the session.
All right. And I like that. I think you're absolutely correct from what we could see on the outside. On the Senate side, the House side was a little different. But let's discuss now. There is talk with big, beautiful bill ruining everything and everyone's life going to pot, yada, yada, that we may need a special session. Two things on that. One is I think Governor Walz at one point really wanted that. You're going to get to election cycle. You're going to point out bad man, yellow, orange. I don't think that he was necessarily against having to call a special session. But we're in a little bit of different times now, especially since the shooting. A couple things going on. Senator Mitchell's trial, I presume, starts this week. They pushed it off. I don't know that. Don't hold me. It's got to be starting. Week. All right. So that's going to start. And again, innocent until proven guilty. No idea how this ends. But that's going to leave things in limbo. He's probably not going to call a special session while that's going on. Obviously, he does want to call a special session with the Hortman seat open. So there's going to have to be a special election there as well. You're shaking your head. It's radio. Am I wrong in my diagnosis here that even if he wants it, this has got to go? I don't know how long it takes, a couple special elections, a special session. We're looking, it's August, September, October would be the absolute earliest.
Well, we have always been told all along, because we saw the big, beautiful bill and the potential.
Yeah, it was on the way to, yep.
We'd always been told that if there's going to be a special session, it's going to be in October. And we were told that long before any of these other things were dealt along. I mean, partly it is, we have a little bit of time to figure out. We need to figure out what the implications are for Minnesota's budget. It'll take a little bit of time for that. We need to know what we're dealing with. And usually you don't call a special session unless you've come to some kind of agreement on things too. So there'll be some hammering out behind the scenes before we show up.
Well, is there a magic number? And I'm honest with you, we have, I think it's $3 or $4 billion in the rainy day fund, just sitting over at the bank over there. So if the big, beautiful bill screws us out of $1 billion or, whatever, does it have to be more than the emergency fund to draw us back in? Because otherwise, here's just Al. It gets October, early November. You guys are coming back in January. What's the need for the special session? Can't you go fix? You know what I'm saying? Once you get to a point, well, let's get everybody back in here and fix this just so we can argue some more. I don't know that I see it if we're that late. Does that make any sense? Is that a good question?
It does. And I'm not sure. I guess, some of it is it depends on what programs and how they're tied to federal funding, whether that cutoff comes immediately and we feel we need to do that. And obviously that money's just sitting in an account. We would have to come back in as a legislature and say, okay, move from special account to wherever we want to put it. I guess, if there was a way to wait till January, probably that would be, fiscally that would be the smarter thing to do. But, there might be something where it's like, like this program is immediately out of money, and we're like, we don't want to do that.
How many do we have? That would be. How many do we have hanging on the cliff like that? Because I understand that this budget, big beautiful thing, starts our fiscal year for 2026, which is October 25. No one's going to miss a check before you guys meet, even if it's horrible. I'm not saving it. I'm just saying, it does make sense to me. You can't hang till January. Maybe it does. We'll figure it out. I've got to go to break, my friend. I appreciate you being here. On the other side, a lot of sneaky, weird stuff got through this year that we're just finding out about, and I just want to find out if you like him or not. We'll talk about it after this. I've got him, Senator Rob Kupec, on the Al Travis Show.
It's your turn to host a game. Grandpa's Barbecue suggests you try something different. Put out the perfect barbecue.
as soon as we're done, sir, I'll hit the stop record button. Hang on the line with me as soon as we're done. I got something for you.
The original flavor of Grandpa's barbecue. It isn't too hot or spicy, fruity or smoky or whatever. Grandpa's barbecue. Available in select stores and online at grandpasbarbecueshop.com.
Think about it. A famous politician once said, "You're entitled to your opinion, but you are not entitled to your own facts." But in a world full of AI and fake news, where can Minnesotans find the facts? Center of the American Experiment is Minnesota's go-to source for fact-based analysis and common sense solutions for taxes, energy, public safety, and our kids' education. Visit AmericanExperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
As in alligator. L also in alligator. But it's not alligator. It's the Al Travis Show.
Lucky to have me, Senator Rob Kupec from the Moorhead area, District 4. We appreciate him coming on the program. Sir, what I mean, sneaky, I do this for a living, so I'm not saying I know everything about everything, but I try to keep up with the stuff that seems to percolate to the top. We have plenty to talk about. Trust me, this last session was a field day for Guys My Business. But I had no idea until I found out last Tuesday, motorcycle guys got everything they wanted. They can bob and weave and duck and charge. And I'm like, did I miss something? Was this a thing we were calling for amongst everything else? The people were up in arms. I missed it. Now, my personal opinion, I don't care. It makes no never mind to me. But how did I miss the idea that we can go with motorcycles can bob and weave, turn it, pass you in your own lane? And it didn't pop up to the top of the paper anytime, never once?
It is always amazing of what, having worked in the media, what the media decides to cover. In a different session, different world, maybe that would have been it. But yeah.
That's true. Did you know it was coming? Were you good with that? My personal thing, just don't hit my car. I don't care. But I had a legislator say that it's going to be an issue with them Teslas, the self-drivers, and those guys that have that, warning light that if you're going on the other side of the road, something comes up on you. He says some of those drivers are going to have problems. Have we discussed all that?
I don't know. I don't think we discussed the Tesla part. I'm not on the committee that bill
Yep.
went through, but the studies have shown in the other states that have done this that this is a lot actually, and to me it's counterintuitive. I would not have thought this, but I'm a data guy, and the studies show that this is actually safer for motorcycle riders when we're in a heavy traffic situation to
Sure.
let them lane split and go ahead. And there's certain rules about when you can do it and all.
Yeah.
But a big problem with motorcycle drivers is in that stop and go, that heavy traffic, they get rear-ended, and then
Yeah.
a lot of times they get killed. And so this lane splitting is actually safer for the motorcycle rider. And I guess that's what convinced me. I know Senator Seeberger was the one who carried the bill, and she's pretty heavily involved with her motorcycle group.
And again, to me, it doesn't matter as long as we all know it's happening. The fact that on Tuesdays when I found out, and that was the day it started happening, it's like, you got to know there are people driving downtown saying, what in God's green earth just happened? Why is that guy driving like that? And now you can. You should talk to somebody. Have Seberg spend some money on the show. We'll put some commercials on and let people know. It just came out of nowhere. Anyway, because again,
just like
it doesn't
that
matter to me.
motorcycle that's going to come up on your list
Exactly.
out of nowhere.
And you know where it's going to hurt is when you're standing in line for places. When you're parking, let's say, to the State Fair, or you're going to the Shakopee for what is the Renaissance, and you're all stopped and you're waiting, and you don't want to let the next guy in because that's my parking spot. When those motorcycles can just zing on up to the front, that's when somebody's going to open a door or do something stupid. I'm just throwing it out there before it happens. The other one was the new boater laws.
Yeah.
The transportation people had a field day while everybody was looking over here at the shiny object. Now, all of a sudden, if you're 12 to, I think it's 21, it'll be up to 41 here in a couple of years, your automobile license doesn't count to drive a boat in Minnesota, any powered
that
vehicle.
wasn't from this session, actually. That was a previous session, and it's just that the law took effect just now. That's actually a Kelly Morrison bill. So she ran for Congress and elected.
Yeah.
So that was a previous bill, but this was the start date by that. And I think a lot of us, even in the legislature, were like, "Oh yeah, we did that, didn't we?" And it came back.
Well, for the rest of it, I'm sorry, because here's my point. Everything you do when it comes to the water in Minnesota now is taxable, right? If you're going to drive it, we got to have a license. If you're going to put it in the water, it's got to have a license on it. And maybe that's okay. But the last thing you guys got to do now is just sell me an arm wristband. If you're going to swim in a Minnesota lake, you got to have our wristband so you can tax me for that. It's because what bothers me, this doesn't apply to Wisconsiners that come over here. It seems weird that I had a 22-year-old man, I've got to get a $5 7-hour test, but the Wisconsin kid at 16 can come over here and do that. It's either fair or it's not. It seems like a strange rule to me.
That part of it, I give you, is strange. I mean, the principle behind it is more about, some of it's about safety, but it's also about, making sure when you're close to shore, you're not making wakes and eroding the shoreline. So there's a lot of complaints. My district goes into lakes country. There's a lot of lake homeowners who are unhappy about these wake boats and how they're operating too close to shore and the erosion they're causing on their property. So maybe
I'm not saying there's a lot of ways around it. To charge everybody a tax to just be able to get on the water and drive a boat, even if you're not doing anything wrong, we can do education. We can say, hey, we caught you ripping the waves. Guess what? That's a $500 fine. I think next time you'll figure it out. I think there are other ways of doing it without charging everybody except Wisconsiners.
Well, you're probably I don't want to age you, but you probably will never have to take the test at your age.
No, I'll die way before I got to take the test. No, but actually this is the brilliant if you kind of work it in, because the 40-year-olds and above they're the ones who owns all the boats anyway, right? So you're going to say, okay, your grandfather, man, I get it. We'll be taxing swimming next at some point. Senator Kupec, we're running out of time. I thank you very much for taking the time to do this. It's your first shot on the show. I hope you enjoyed it. Loved having you on. I'd love to get to know you more and have you on more often. I do appreciate you.
Absolutely. This was a great time. Anytime, call me up.
I'll do that. He's Senator Robert Kupec of District 4. He is up in the Fargo-Moorhead area. We'll talk more right after this.
There are many ways to explore Alexandria.